Everyone stops to admire the scene. Rosie at work on the B-19.
She's never twittery, nervous or jittery.
Rosie, Rosie, the riveter. What if she's smeared full of oil and grease? Doing her bit for the old Lend-Lease. She keeps the gang around, they love to hang around. Rosie, Rosie, the riveter.
Rosie buys a lot of war bonds. That girl really has sense.
And wishes she could purchase more bonds, putting all her cash into national defense.
I have worked on the double bottoms clear up to the crow's nest. There's only about 3 feet you have to set down in there to work in the double bottoms, and you can't work in there very long because it gets pretty well filled up with smoke. And then you have to get out. Welded on the deck, the big slabs of iron that lay on the deck, welded those together. Welding on the deck is really fun. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Oh, it was good to work with people. It's something about that camaraderie that you really need on a job. If the job is hard and everybody's working hard, you don't mind. It's just that sharing and all doing it together.
Lunch hour would find us spread out on the sidewalk, women welders with our little outfits, and usually a quart of milk in one hand and a salami sandwich in the other. Workers from other shops on the streets would look at us and we'd say we're welders, and we were interlopers. And we had a happy attitude toward our work that they, of course, really did not have, because they were in the middle and at the end of their stories, and we felt we were at the beginning.
Here is the office of the supervisor of women employees. And are they doing all right?
Beyond anything anyone ever dreamed of. They're doing something in almost every department in the plant. And I don't mean just clerks and checkers. We have women engineers and oilers in the boiler room. Women repair experts. Women work at the ore mines above ground, along the unloading docks, and our private railroad tracks. And women shipbuilders. These women are working around the clock, around the calendar. They do a man's job and they can draw a man's pay. And they're doing it safely. They're safer here than in their own homes.
Well, I was welding and the people up above me, they were knocking some pieces of iron down. I hollered and said, cut that out. First thing I knew, a big piece came down, hit me on the back of the head, and down I went. I was just hanging over the big iron pipes when somebody come in there and got me off of the big iron pipes. I was taken out in the basket. And I barely remembered. I thought, I knew I was in the basket. They have what they call it the basket, and it's taken out with a crane. You're way up in the air, all right. There was one man that got killed right with about 12 feet of me when I was welding on the deck. A big iron, what did they call those, standards or something like that. Anyway, a big column of iron, it fell over and just smashed him flat, instantly.
This was a job, it was an ammunition place where you had to sift gunpowder and stuff. You had to have shoes that gave you a large insurance. You got a great big insurance, something like $10,000 or something. You had to go and get outfitted for it. For instance, the shoes had to be grounded, and they wouldn't give us the shoes on credit. So they let us work without the shoes. If I had been older, I wouldn't have taken the job because I would have known it was dangerous. Because one of the girls, you couldn't wear a slip or silk stockings. Women wore silk stockings in those days instead of nylons until, they all got away from us, during the war. Then we didn't have any. But she went in with a hairpin in her hair one day, and it created a spark, and she and her partner blew up to smithereens. That's when I said, well, forget this job. I'm not going to work here anymore. So I quit that. It was too dangerous.
Kopsky, this shop on 6th Avenue, wasn't what I was dreaming of. I had wanted to work in some big aircraft plant, like we were beginning to see in the movies. And Kopsky's shop, well, it was an old dive on 6th Avenue, 21st Street. We were very good producers, but we were earning far less than the men who were doing the same work. We certainly wanted to help the war effort. All of us were very involved in those feelings. No one of us came from a family that would take care of us. We had to earn a living, and we were not doing so. One of the women, Blanche, and I went down to a United Electrical Workers Union. We started to wear union buttons, and Mr. Kopsky's face changed. He didn't like us anymore. We were no longer his girls. He didn't like us. And he had a foreman, Emil, who felt personally insulted by our union buttons because he says that he was good to us. And he was good to us. It had nothing to do with it. It took a few weeks. We got union cards signed. We came to work one morning. Door was locked. We couldn't come in. We were locked out. Interesting sidelight, we had some black women workers with us. They had never before told us, but only when we were organizing in the union did we find out that they were paid 5 cents less per hour than the white workers had been paid. Talk about cheap. So Thelma, our union organizer, came along. She called newspapers, and they came with cameras. The union filed a complaint at the National Labor Relations Board saying that we wanted to work, we're working for the war effort, and he wouldn't permit us to work. His attitude had changed since the union, and of course he said we were no good, we were unskilled, we didn't know what we were doing, we were only good, as he said, for being married and having babies. That's all we were good for. Well, we went to the Labor Relations Board, and they ruled in our favor, and we were members of the Electrical Workers Union, and the change in our money was fantastic. I can't recall now, but it was about an 80% raise.